Mark, where were you when JFK was shot?
Mike, I was minus 11 years old.
Right, same. But here's what's bizarre. My dad can tell you exactly where he was. The cafe in Sydney, the chair he was sitting in, the angle of the sunlight through the window, the sandwich, egg and cress, which is the most Australian crisis food imaginable.
My mum was in Dublin, 9 years old. Her dad came home from work early, which never happened. She said the whole street went silent, like someone had hit a mute button on the entire neighbourhood.
And neither of us were even born yet. But somehow it's lodged in our brains, like genetic memory, this inheritance we got without signing up for it.
It's the last time America had a president who felt like a hero. And then Dealey Plaza happens and everything changes.
Well, hold on, let's not get too romantic about Camelot. But you're onto something. JFK wasn't just an assassinated president. He was the end of American innocence. The moment the country realised its leaders could bleed.
Literally.
And after that, conspiracy theories, institutional distrust, political cynicism, all of it starts. November 22nd, 1963.
And we're still living in it. My daughter thinks every institution is corrupt. Government, media, corporations, universities. And honestly, I can't tell her she's wrong.
Dylan came home yesterday explaining how Thanksgiving is basically colonial violence. And I'm like, mate, can I just eat stuffing without an existential crisis?
See, this is JFK's real legacy. A world where nobody trusts anything. Where every official story gets picked apart. Where hope feels naive.
But here's the thing, and this is what we're unpacking today in 90 minutes, because this story deserves the full treatment. JFK's death didn't just break America. It also proved we could survive being broken. The country didn't collapse. Democracy limped forward.
Very inspiring, Mike.
I'm trying. Look, for our listeners in their 40s, 50s, 60s, you didn't live through JFK, but you inherited the trauma. Your parents passed it down through dinner table silences, through the way they talked about November 22nd like it was a religious holiday, through this weird nostalgia for a time that was probably messier than they remember.
And now we're passing our traumas to our kids. 9/11, the financial crisis, the pandemic, political chaos. They're absorbing our anxiety whether we mean them to or not.
Which is cheerful.
I'm Irish. Cheerful isn't our genetic default.
Fair. So today we're doing a deep dive, not just the assassination, but who JFK really was, what Camelot actually meant, the Cold War terror that shaped everything, Jackie Kennedy's impossible burden, the conspiracy theories, why Bobby Kennedy's death 5 years later was the final nail, and what it all means for us now.
Mike's getting existential and ambitious. Everyone strap in for 90 minutes.
I'm 46. My knees hurt, my mortgage is crushing me, and Caroline's tuition bills make me want to weep. Existential is all I have left. And we're going deep today.
Relatable? I'm 52. I've had a bowel obstruction, and my retirement fund is basically a myth. Let's talk about dead presidents for an hour and a half.
This is the Mike and Mark History Experience. I'm Mike.
I'm Mark.
And today we're talking about the day America's last myth died in Dallas and everything that led to it and everything that came after. All right. John Fitzgerald Kennedy, born May 29th, 1917, Brookline, Massachusetts, second of 9 kids in the wealthiest, most politically connected Irish Catholic family in America.
His dad, Joseph Kennedy, was absolutely terrifying. Made a fortune in banking, real estate, Hollywood, and allegedly bootlegging during Prohibition. Though allegedly is doing Olympic-level work in that sentence.
Joe Kennedy was ruthless. He manipulated stock markets, bought movie studios, dated Gloria Swanson while married. He wanted power, and when he couldn't become president himself, he decided one of his sons would.
It was supposed to be Joe Jr., the golden boy. Handsome, athletic, charismatic, smart, everything a Kennedy should be. Joe Jr. was going to be president. It was decided.
But World War II happened. Joe Jr. volunteered for a dangerous mission, Operation Aphrodite, 1944, flying a bomber loaded with explosives over the English Channel, remote controlled. Except something went wrong. The plane exploded midair. Joe Jr. died instantly.
And suddenly all that pressure, all that ambition, all that Kennedy destiny crashes onto Jack. Who was the sick kid? the weak one, the one who probably wasn't supposed to survive childhood.
JFK had Addison's disease, chronic back pain from a college football injury, and a PT boat accident. Digestive problems. He was on so many medications. It's genuinely amazing he functioned.
But Joe Kennedy turned even that into mythology. Jack wasn't sick. He was a war hero who persevered through injury. He wasn't weak. He was strong through adversity.
PT 109, August 1943, JFK is commanding a patrol torpedo boat in the Solomon Islands. Middle of the night, a Japanese destroyer, the Amagiri, rams them, cuts the boat in half. 2 crew members die instantly.
JFK and 10 surviving crew members are in the water, burning fuel everywhere, sharks circling. They swim to a tiny island, and JFK tows one of the injured men, Patrick McMahon, by the life jacket strap in his teeth. For 5 hours.
His back is already destroyed. He's exhausted. There's fuel in his stomach making him sick, but he keeps going. They survive on coconuts for 6 days before being rescued.
And Joe Kennedy makes sure every newspaper in America knows about it. JFK writes an article for The New Yorker. It becomes a Reader's Digest condensed book, then a movie. PT 109 isn't just a story, it's the origin myth of a hero.
And that's what Joe Kennedy understood. In the age of mass media, stories matter more than reality. You don't need to be the strongest candidate, you need to be the best story.
So when JFK runs for Congress in 1946, he's not just a candidate, he's a war hero who survived impossible odds. He's young, handsome, from a famous family. He's a narrative.
He wins easily, then runs for Senate in 1952, beats the incumbent, and suddenly JFK is a national figure. A senator at 35, people start talking about the White House.
But he's still sick. In 1954, his back pain is so bad he needs surgery, spinal fusion. Except because of Addison's disease, the surgery goes terribly. He nearly dies. Gets last rites twice.
And even that becomes part of the myth. While recovering, he writes a book, Profiles in Courage. It's about senators who showed political bravery. It wins the Pulitzer Prize in 1957.
Though there's been debate about how much he actually wrote versus his speechwriter Ted Sorensen. But that doesn't matter for the mythology.
Right, by 1960, JFK's a war hero, a senator, a Pulitzer Prize winner, young, handsome, wealthy, Catholic, which is controversial but also exciting. He's the perfect candidate for the television age.
And he's running against Richard Nixon, who's experienced, intelligent, Eisenhower's vice president. Should be an easy win for Nixon.
Except Nixon doesn't understand the new rules. Politics isn't just about experience anymore. It's about image. It's about television. It's about who you want to be, not just what you've done.
And that's where JFK destroys him. The debates. September and October 1960. First televised presidential debates in American history.
If you listen on radio, a lot of people thought Nixon won. He sounded knowledgeable, authoritative, calm.
But on television, JFK looked like a movie star. Tanned, relaxed, charming. Nixon looked sweaty, uncomfortable, like he needed a shower and 12 hours of sleep. He refused makeup. Fatal mistake.
70 million people watched. An image won. JFK won by 112,000 votes out of 68 million cast. Less than 0.2%.
And there were credible allegations of voter fraud. Chicago, Texas, Joe Kennedy allegedly bought votes. But JFK won, and mythology became reality.
John F. Kennedy, war hero, senator, Pulitzer Prize winner, president-elect. At 43 years old, the youngest elected president in American history.
And America thought it had found a king.
So let's talk about Camelot. Because JFK didn't create the myth alone. Jackie Kennedy was essential. Jacqueline Lee Bouvier Kennedy. Born July 28th, 1929. Wealthy family, educated at Vassar and the Sorbonne. Spoke 4 languages. Worked as a photographer.
She met JFK at a dinner party in 1952. He was a congressman. She was 22. They married a year later. Massive society wedding in Newport, Rhode Island. 800 guests.
And Jackie was perfect for the Kennedy political machine. Beautiful, sophisticated, cultured, but also private. She hated campaigning, hated the spotlight. Wanted to be a wife and mother, not a political prop.
But Joe Kennedy convinced her, you're not just marrying Jack, you're marrying the presidency. And that requires performance.
So Jackie performed. and she was brilliant at it. First lady, she became a cultural icon. She restored the White House, gave a televised tour. 56 million people watched. She made history and culture glamorous again.
She wore Oleg Cassini clothes, pillbox hats, that pink Chanel suit. She spoke French to Charles de Gaulle. She charmed Khrushchev. She made America look sophisticated.
JFK once joked, "I'm the man who accompanied Jacqueline Kennedy to Paris because she was the star. World leaders wanted to meet her. The press followed her everywhere."
But privately, it was complicated. JFK had affairs, lots of them. Marilyn Monroe, Judith Campbell, White House staff. It was an open secret in Washington.
Jackie knew. How could she not? But divorce wasn't an option. Not for a Catholic president, not for a Kennedy. So she endured it, played her role, raised Caroline and John Jr., smiled for cameras,
and created the Camelot mythology. After the assassination, Jackie gave an interview to Life magazine. Theodore White, November 29th, 1963, 1 week after Dallas.
She said JFK loved the musical Camelot, the soundtrack, especially the final lines. Don't let it be forgot that once there was a spot for one brief shining moment that was known as Camelot.
And that became the Kennedy legacy. Not policy, not legislation, but feeling. The idea that for 1,036 days, America had been magical, young, hopeful, heroic.
Which is brilliant mythology, but it obscures reality. JFK's presidency was more complicated than Camelot suggests.
But that's the power of good storytelling. Jackie understood that history is memory, and memory is shaped by narrative. So she shaped the narrative.
And it worked. 60 years later, we're still talking about Camelot, still romanticising those 1,000 days, still wishing we could go back.
Even though we can't. And even though it probably wasn't as perfect as we remember.
But that's nostalgia. It's not about truth. It's about feeling. And JFK and Jackie made America feel special. Like anything was possible.
Which is what people in their 40s, 50s, 60s are hungry for now. That sense of possibility, that hope, that belief that leaders can inspire.
Because we don't have that anymore. We have cynicism. We have distrust. We have politicians we vote against more than we vote for.
And JFK represents the last time it felt different. Even if it's mythology, even if it's not entirely true.
We need myths, especially when reality is exhausting. All right, let's talk about the context. Because you can't understand JFK without understanding the Cold War, the terror that shaped everything.
1945, World War II ends. Germany's destroyed, Japan's destroyed. Two superpowers emerge, the United States and the Soviet Union. And they immediately start competing for global dominance.
Nuclear weapons change everything. August 1945, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, 2 bombs, 200,000 dead, and suddenly humanity has the power to destroy itself.
The Soviets get the bomb in 1949, earlier than expected. Then both sides start building arsenals, thousands of nuclear weapons, enough to end civilization multiple times over.
And this creates existential terror. For the first time in human history, parents wonder if their children will survive to adulthood. Not because of disease or war in the traditional sense, but because of instant annihilation.
1952, the US tests the first hydrogen bomb, 1,000 times more powerful than Hiroshima. The Soviets test theirs in 53. The arms race escalates.
And American culture becomes obsessed with survival. Fallout shelters in backyards, duck and cover drills in schools, public service announcements about what to do if you see the flash.
Which is insane. Duck and cover won't save you from a nuclear blast, but it gives people the illusion of control. The feeling that maybe, possibly, you could survive.
This is what our parents grew up with. Constant low-level terror. The Soviets could launch missiles at any moment. You could be eating breakfast and 15 minutes later be vaporized.
My dad talks about this. He said they'd do drills at school, hide under desks, cover their heads, and teachers would explain that nuclear war was survivable if you followed instructions.
It's psychological torture for children. Imagine being 7 years old and knowing the world could end before lunch.
And then 1957, Sputnik. The Soviets launched the first artificial satellite, beep, 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 circling the Earth every 96 minutes.
America panics. Because if the Soviets can put a satellite in orbit, they can put a nuclear warhead there too. You're not even safe in your own country. The threat is literally overhead.
1961, Yuri Gagarin, first human in space. Soviet, America's losing the space race, losing the technology race, maybe losing the Cold War.
And this is the world JFK inherits. Nuclear terror, Soviet advances, American fear, parents wondering if their kids will survive, and JFK has to project strength and confidence while navigating potential extinction.
Which he mostly does well. The moon speech, 1961. We choose to go to the moon in this decade. Not because it's easy, but because it's hard. It's inspiring. It's hopeful. It says America can still win.
But behind the scenes, constant crises. Berlin Wall goes up in 61. Khrushchev threatens war over West Berlin. JFK increases military spending, escalates tensions.
And then Cuba, which we'll get to. But the point is, the Cold War created this permanent anxiety, this sense that everything could end at any moment.
And that anxiety is what our parents internalized. That's what they passed to us. This feeling that the world is fundamentally unsafe, that disaster is always possible.
And now we're passing it to our kids. Different disasters, climate change, political instability, economic collapse, pandemics, but the same underlying fear, the same sense that the future is uncertain and terrifying.
It's intergenerational trauma. And it starts with the Cold War, with the bomb, with the knowledge that humans can destroy themselves.
And JFK embodied that tension. Hope and terror, optimism and crisis. The belief that we could reach the moon while knowing we could also incinerate the planet.
That's the world that produced Camelot. And that's the world that ended in Dallas. All right, let's get into what JFK actually did as president, the reality behind the mythology, because his record is genuinely mixed. Some brilliant moments, some catastrophic failures.
He was president for 1,036 days, less than 3 years. So we're judging him on a very short tenure. But in that time, massive swings.
April 1961, Bay of Pigs. 3 months into his presidency, total disaster. The CIA convinces JFK to support an invasion of Cuba. 1,400 Cuban exiles, trained and armed by the CIA, will land at the Bay of Pigs, spark a popular uprising, and overthrow Castro.
Except nothing goes as planned. Castro knows they're coming. The exiles land and immediately get slaughtered. No air support, no reinforcements, no uprising. Within 3 days, it's over. 114 dead, 1,200 captured.
It's a humiliation. Kennedy's first major foreign policy decision is a catastrophe. He looks weak, inexperienced, naive. He trusted the CIA. He trusted the military experts, and they led him into disaster.
To his credit, he takes full responsibility, goes on television, says victory has 100 fathers, but defeat is an orphan. I am the responsible officer of the government. The buck stops here.
Which is politically smart, but privately he's furious. He realizes the CIA and military brass gave him terrible advice. He starts questioning their recommendations, brings in his own advisors. Bobby Kennedy becomes his most trusted counselor.
But the damage is done. Castro's stronger than ever. The Soviets are emboldened. And JFK looks vulnerable.
Then October 1962, Cuban Missile Crisis. The Soviets are secretly installing nuclear missiles in Cuba. 90 miles from Florida, American U-2 spy planes photograph the sites, and suddenly the world is on the brink of nuclear war.
13 days, October 16th to 28th. The most dangerous 13 days in human history. JFK has to decide what to do. And his generals want war.
General Curtis LeMay, Air Force Chief of Staff, wants immediate airstrikes. Destroy the missile sites, invade Cuba, finish Castro. Other generals agree. This is our chance to win.
But JFK says no. He understands the stakes. If we strike first, the Soviets retaliate. Maybe in Berlin, maybe with nuclear weapons. This could escalate into World War III. Tens of millions dead, maybe hundreds of millions.
So JFK chooses the naval blockade. Quarantine. Soviet ships carrying missiles can't reach Cuba. But we're not attacking. We're creating pressure, giving Khrushchev a way to back down without looking weak.
And it works. But barely. Soviet ships approach the blockade. One submarine nearly launches a nuclear torpedo. If it had, World War III would have started. But cooler heads prevail.
Khrushchev agrees to remove the missiles. In exchange, the US secretly agrees to remove missiles from Turkey and to never invade Cuba. Crisis averted. Humanity survives.
My dad said his parents were genuinely terrified. They stockpiled food, filled the bathtub with water, thought they might not survive the week.
And that terror stuck with them for the rest of their lives. They knew how close we came, and they passed that knowledge to us.
Which is why I catastrophize everything. My therapist says it's intergenerational trauma from Cold War anxiety.
You mention your therapist a lot.
Because therapy is helpful. I'm 52. I've had health scares. My son's unemployed. My retirement's non-existent. I need someone to talk to who isn't my wife.
Fair enough. So domestically, JFK's record is more complicated. Civil rights. He talks a big game, but he moves slowly. He doesn't want to alienate Southern Democrats who control Congress.
So he's cautious, incremental. He appoints some black judges. He sends federal marshals to protect freedom riders, but he doesn't push hard for legislation.
Until June 11th, 1963. He gives that incredible address. This nation was founded on the principle that all men are created equal, but that's not reality for black Americans. Civil rights is a moral issue. It's as old as the scriptures and as clear as the Constitution.
And he introduces legislation, what becomes the Civil Rights Act of 1964, but he doesn't live to see it passed. LBJ does.
Vietnam's the other question mark. JFK inherited 900 military advisors in Vietnam from Eisenhower. By November 63, there are 16,000. So he's escalating American involvement.
But would he have sent ground troops the way LBJ did? Would he have escalated into a full war? We don't know. Some historians say no, some say absolutely.
And we'll never know because he died. And the mythology says JFK would have withdrawn, would have avoided Vietnam, would have been the anti-war president.
But that might be wishful thinking. We project what we want onto him because he's frozen in time. The president of potential, not results.
Which is powerful, but also unfair to judge someone on what they might have done instead of what they actually did. All right, November 22nd, 1963, Dallas, Texas. Let's walk through it because this is the day that breaks America.
JFK's on a political trip. Texas is complicated. LBJ's from Texas. Governor John Connolly's a Democrat. But Texas is fracturing. JFK barely won it in 60. He needs to shore up support for 64.
The day starts in Fort Worth. JFK gives a speech, then flies to Dallas, Love Field Airport, crowds everywhere. Jackie's wearing that pink Chanel suit and pillbox hat.
They get into an open-top Lincoln Continental SS100X. No bulletproof top. It's a sunny day. They want people to see them. Presidential visibility.
The motorcade route is published in newspapers days in advance. Down Main Street, turn onto Houston, then a sharp left onto Elm Street through Dealey Plaza, heading to the Trade Mart for a luncheon speech.
Jackie's next to JFK in the back seat. Governor John Connolly and his wife Nellie are in the jump seats in front. Secret Service agents in the follow car. Press photographers behind.
They turn onto Elm Street. It's 12:29 p.m. They're passing the Texas School Book Depository, a 7-story building overlooking the plaza.
12:30 p.m. The first shot. Some witnesses hear it and think it's a firecracker or a motorcycle backfiring, but it's a rifle shot.
The bullet hits JFK in the upper back, exits through his throat. He reaches for his neck. Jackie looks at him, confused. Something's wrong, but she doesn't understand what yet.
5.6 seconds later, the second shot. This one hits Governor Connolly, enters his back, exits his chest, hits his wrist, ends up in his thigh. He screams, "My God, they're going to kill us all!"
1.7 seconds later, the third shot. This one hits JFK in the head, back right side. The impact is catastrophic. Jackie screams. She tries to climb onto the trunk of the car. Secret Service agent Clint Hill jumps onto the back, pushes her down, shields them with his body.
The whole thing is 6 seconds, 3 shots, and it's over. The driver accelerates, races to Parkland Memorial Hospital, 4 miles away.
They arrive at 12:36 p.m. 6 minutes after the shooting. Doctors rush JFK into Trauma Room 1. Governor Connolly goes into Trauma Room 2.
The doctors do everything. Oxygen, blood transfusions, adrenaline, chest compressions. But the head wound is too severe. There's brain matter on the table. It's hopeless.
At 1 p.m., They pronounce him dead. 35 minutes after being shot, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, the 35th President of the United States, dead at 46 years old.
Jackie's covered in blood. Her suit, her face, her hands. Secret Service agents try to get her to change clothes. She refuses. She reportedly says, "I want them to see what they've done."
And that image becomes iconic. Jackie Kennedy, bloodstained, traumatized, refusing to hide the horror. It's the end of Camelot in one photograph.
Meanwhile, chaos. Nobody knows what's happening. Is this a coup? Are the Soviets attacking? Is there a conspiracy? The government goes into crisis mode.
LBJ's rushed to Air Force One, still on the ground at Love Field. They're getting him out of Dallas. But they wait for Jackie. They wait for the coffin.
At 2:38 p.m. on Air Force One, LBJ is sworn in as president. Jackie stands next to him, still wearing the bloodstained suit, still in shock. Photographer Cecil Stoughton takes the photo.
And then Air Force One takes off, carries JFK's body back to Washington, carries Jackie back, carries the new president, and leaves Dallas behind.
But within hours, the whole country knows. Walter Cronkite announces it on CBS at 1:40 p.m. Central Time, takes off his glasses, chokes up, and you can see him fighting tears.
This is the moment America becomes a television nation. Everyone's watching the same thing at the same time. Shared grief, shared shock, shared trauma.
For people who were alive, this is the defining moment of their lives. They remember exactly where they were, what they were doing, who they were with.
My dad was in Sydney working at the newspaper. He remembers the teletype machine printing the news, remembers everyone going silent, remembers calling my grandma to make sure she'd heard.
My mum was in Dublin, 9 years old. Her da came home from work early with the news. She remembers the whole neighbourhood going quiet, remembers feeling scared without understanding why.
And that's the power of JFK's assassination. It's not just that a president died, it's that America's mythology died. The belief that we were safe, that our heroes were protected, that the future was bright.
Everything after Dallas is different. The innocence is gone, the cynicism begins, and we're still living in that world.
All right, let's talk about Lee Harvey Oswald, because he's the alleged assassin, but he's also a mystery, a weird, angry, strange guy who might have changed history or might have been a patsy.
Lee Harvey Oswald. Born October 18th, 1939. New Orleans. Father died before he was born. Mother was unstable, moved constantly. Oswald grew up poor, isolated, resentful.
He joins the Marines at 17, 1956, gets stationed in Japan, works at a radar facility, learns Russian, which is weird. Why is a Marine learning Russian in 1956?
And then, 1959, he defects the Soviet Union. 20 years old, walks into the American embassy in Moscow and says he's renouncing his citizenship. Wants to be Soviet.
The Soviets don't know what to do with him. They send him to Minsk. He works in a factory, meets a woman, Marina Prusakova, marries her, has a daughter.
But Oswald's disillusioned. The Soviet Union isn't the paradise he imagined. It's grey, bureaucratic, boring. So in June 1962, he decides to come back to America with his Soviet wife and daughter.
Which is bizarre. The US lets him back in. No consequences for defecting, no prosecution. He just comes home, settles in Texas.
And that's where conspiracy theories start. Why did the Soviets let him leave? Why did the US let him return? Was he a double agent? Was he CIA? Was he KGB?
Or was he just an unstable, angry guy who couldn't fit in anywhere? That's the simple explanation, but people don't like simple explanations.
So Oswald's in Texas, Dallas, then New Orleans, then back to Dallas. He's working odd jobs. He's pro-Castro. He hands out Fair Play for Cuba committee pamphlets, gets into altercations with anti-Castro Cubans.
The FBI is watching him. They know he defected. They know he's a communist sympathizer, but they don't think he's dangerous. Just a nuisance.
September 1963. Oswald gets a job at the Texas School Book Depository. Warehouse work, filling orders, minimum wage.
And the depository overlooks Dealey Plaza. The motorcade route is published in newspapers. Anyone can see where JFK will be, when he'll be there.
November 22nd, morning. Oswald brings a long package to work. Tells co-workers it's curtain rods for his apartment. It's not curtain rods, it's a Mannlicher Carcano rifle. He bought it by mail order for $21.
Sixth floor of the depository. Oswald sets up near a window, stacks boxes to create a sniper's nest. Waits. The motorcade approaches at 12:30 p.m.
3 shots. 1 misses or hits. 1 hits Connolly, 1 kills JFK. Oswald leaves the rifle, runs down the stairs, leaves the building.
12:40 p.m. Oswald's walking down the street, flagging a taxi, goes to his rooming house, grabs a revolver, leaves.
1:15 p.m. Dallas police officer J.D. Tippett sees Oswald walking, stops to question him. Oswald shoots him 4 times, kills him, runs.
1:50 p.m. Oswald's arrested at the Texas Theater. Watching War is Hell. He pulls the revolver, but police tackle him before he can shoot. He's arrested.
And immediately he starts claiming he's a patsy. I'm just a patsy. I didn't kill anybody. He denies everything.
For 2 days, Oswald's interrogated, no lawyer, no tape recordings, just Dallas police and FBI questioning him. He denies killing JFK, denies killing Tippett, says he's being set up.
November 24th, Sunday morning, 2 days after the assassination. Oswald's being transferred to county jail. Dallas police decide to do it publicly. Let the press film it. Show they have the assassin.
Bad decision, because at 11:21 a.m., as Oswald's being led through the basement of police headquarters, a man steps forward from the crowd of reporters. Jack Ruby, nightclub owner, shoots Oswald in the abdomen at point blank range on live television.
Millions of people watch Oswald die, or rather watch him get shot. He dies at Parkland Hospital at 1:07 p.m., the same hospital where JFK died.
And that's where conspiracy theories explode. Because now the alleged assassin is dead, we can't interrogate him, we can't have a trial, we can't hear his side. We'll never know for sure what he did or why.
Was Oswald the lone assassin? Was he working for someone? Was he framed? We can't answer those questions anymore because Jack Ruby killed him.
And that uncertainty has poisoned American discourse for 60 years. Because without a trial, without answers, people create their own explanations. And those explanations become conspiracy theories.
Which is the final tragedy of JFK's assassination. Not just that he died, but that we'll never fully know why. And that not knowing drives us crazy.
So let's talk about Jack Ruby, because he's almost as mysterious as Oswald. And his decision to shoot Oswald on live television is one of the strangest moments in American history.
Jack Ruby, born Jacob Rubenstein, March 25th, 1911, Chicago, Jewish family. Grew up in a rough neighborhood, ran with street gangs, moved to Dallas in 1947.
Ruby ran nightclubs, the Carousel Club, the Vegas Club, strip clubs basically. He had alleged ties to organised crime. Not a made man, but connected. He knew people.
And he loved cops. He'd bring them free food, free drinks, let them into his clubs for free. He wanted to be close to law enforcement, wanted to feel important.
So when JFK is assassinated, Ruby's at the Dallas Morning News, placing ads for his club. He's distraught, closes his clubs, spends the weekend watching TV coverage.
November 24th, Sunday morning. Ruby wakes up late, decides to wire money to one of his dancers, drives downtown, parks near the Western Union office.
11:17 a.m. He wires the money, $25, gets a receipt, time-stamped 11:17.
And then he walks to Dallas Police headquarters just a block away, walks down the ramp into the basement. Nobody stops him. He knows the cops. They wave him through.
At 11:21 a.m., Oswald's being transferred, handcuffed, flanked by detectives, cameras everywhere. Ruby steps forward, pulls a .38 caliber Colt Cobra revolver, shoots Oswald in the abdomen.
Live on NBC. Millions watching. You can hear the gunshot, see Oswald collapse, see the chaos. It's the first murder broadcast live on national television.
Ruby's immediately tackled, arrested, and he keeps saying he did it for Jackie so she wouldn't have to come back to Dallas for a trial, so she wouldn't have to relive it.
Which sounds noble, but it also sounds insane. You murdered someone to spare Jackie Kennedy emotional pain. That's not rational.
Ruby's tried, March 1964, found guilty of murder with malice, sentenced to death, but he appeals. And while he's in jail, his health deteriorates.
January 3, 1967, Jack Ruby dies of lung cancer, pulmonary embolism. He's 55 years old. And he takes his full story with him.
So here's the question. Why did Jack Ruby really shoot Oswald? Was it grief, impulse, mental instability, or was it something else?
Conspiracy theories say Ruby was hired by the mob to silence Oswald. That Oswald knew too much, that there was a larger plot, and Ruby's job was to make sure Oswald never talked.
But Ruby had a documented history of impulsive behavior. He was emotional, unstable, desperate for attention. He wanted to be a hero. He wanted to be remembered.
And shooting Oswald made him famous. Infamous, but famous. Everyone knows Jack Ruby now. Without that moment, he'd just be another forgotten nightclub owner.
So I think it was impulse. Ruby saw an opportunity. He had a gun. He walked in. He acted. And he destroyed any chance of understanding what really happened.
But that's less interesting than a conspiracy. So people choose to believe Ruby was hired because that implies organization, control, meaning...
And chaos is scarier. The idea that JFK died because one angry guy got lucky and then another unstable guy killed him on impulse. That's terrifying randomness.
But that's probably what happened. Not a grand conspiracy, just chaos, just bad luck, just history being random and cruel.
Which doesn't give us closure, doesn't give us answers, and that's why we're still arguing about it 60 years later. All right, let's dive deep into conspiracy theories, because JFK's assassination birthed an entire industry, and it says more about us than it does about what actually happened.
The Warren Commission. Established November 29, 1963, Chief Justice Earl Warren chairs it. 7 members, 10 months of investigation, 552 witnesses, 8,800 interviews.
September 1964, they released their report, 872 pages. Conclusion, Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone, 3 shots from the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository, no conspiracy, no second gunman.
And immediately, a huge chunk of Americans don't believe it. Polls in 66 show only 36% of Americans believe Oswald acted alone. By the 70s, it's 20%. Most people think there was a conspiracy.
Why? Because the official story feels incomplete. Oswald's a nobody, a warehouse worker. How does a nobody kill the president? There must be more to it.
And there are legitimate questions. The CIA withheld information, the FBI destroyed evidence, Jack Ruby's mob connections, Oswald's weird Soviet defection. It's all very suspicious.
So conspiracy theories explode. The mob did it. Castro did it. The CIA did it. LBJ orchestrated it. Military-industrial complex, anti-Castro Cubans, KGB. It goes on and on.
The grassy knoll. Multiple shooters. Magic bullet. Umbrella man. Zapruder film anomalies. Badge man. Every piece of evidence gets reinterpreted to fit conspiracy narratives.
And in 1979, the House Select Committee on Assassinations reopens the investigation, examines new evidence, including acoustic recordings, and they conclude JFK was probably assassinated as a result of a conspiracy.
Probably. Based on acoustic evidence suggesting a 4th shot from the grassy knoll, except that acoustic evidence was later thoroughly debunked. But the damage is done. Now there's official support for conspiracy.
And then 1991... Oliver Stone's movie JFK, 3 hours of conspiracy mongering. Jim Garrison, the New Orleans DA, investigating a vast plot involving the CIA, military, LBJ, everyone. It's compelling filmmaking. It's terrible history.
But it convinces millions of people because it's dramatic. It's thrilling. Multiple shooters, secret meetings, shadowy operatives. It's better entertainment than lone gunmen.
So let's address the big theories. First, the magic bullet. People think it's impossible for one bullet to hit JFK and Connolly, but it's not. Governor Connolly was seated lower and inboard. The bullet path makes complete sense if you understand the geometry.
Wait, you believe the magic bullet theory?
I believe the physics. It's not magic, it's trajectory. The bullet entered JFK's back, exited his throat, hit Connolly's back because he was seated directly in front and lower. Full metal jacket rounds don't deform in soft tissue. The physics work.
But it sounds insane. 1 bullet, 7 wounds.
Or it's just basic ballistics. Mark, the alternative is multiple shooters, which means coordinated conspirators, which means hundreds of people keeping a secret for 60 years. That's harder to believe than physics.
Fine. But what about Jack Ruby? Why did he really shoot Oswald?
Ruby was emotionally unstable. He was an impulsive guy, desperate for attention. He saw an opportunity and he took it. If the mob hired him to silence Oswald, they'd have hired a professional. Not a nightclub owner with heart problems who shoots him in front of cameras.
All right, but the CIA, the FBI, They hid things. They destroyed evidence.
Absolutely. Governments hide things. But hiding things and orchestrating an assassination are vastly different. Incompetence and malice look the same from the outside.
That's frustratingly reasonable.
I'm Australian. We're practical. Look, I understand why people believe conspiracies. Because they're comforting. If there's a conspiracy, someone's in control. Even if they're evil, there's a plan, there's logic.
But chaos is scarier.
Exactly. Random violence means anyone could be next. No protection, no pattern, just bad luck. So we create patterns, we see connections, we build narratives that make the chaos feel manageable.
Conspiracy theories are basically fantasy football for people who don't trust reality.
Perfect. I'm stealing that. But seriously, this is JFK's lasting legacy, not just his death, but the permanent distrust it created.
After Dallas, Americans stopped believing official stories. Everything became suspect. Every institution became potentially corrupt, and we never recovered.
Which brings us to now, where my daughter thinks everything's a conspiracy, where your son probably does too, where half the country doesn't trust election results, where people think pandemics are manufactured, where every tragedy spawns alternative theories.
And it all starts in Dealey Plaza with 3 shots and a dead president and an America that will never trust the same way again.
So here's what makes JFK's assassination even more tragic. It wasn't the end. 5 years later, another Kennedy dies and America breaks again.
Robert Francis Kennedy, Bobby, 20th of November, 1925 to the 6th of June, 1968. JFK's younger brother, Attorney General during JFK's presidency, his closest advisor, and after Dallas, the keeper of the Kennedy legacy.
Bobby was devastated by JFK's death, absolutely destroyed. He blamed himself for not protecting Jack, fell into depression, considered leaving politics entirely.
But in 1964, he runs for Senate from New York, wins, becomes a senator, and slowly he transforms from JFK's enforcer to his own man, more liberal, more passionate, more connected to poverty and injustice.
And by 1968, Bobby decides to run for president. The Vietnam War is tearing the country apart. LBJ's presidency is collapsing. Bobby sees an opportunity to finish what Jack started.
He announces the 16th of March, 1968, runs as an anti-war candidate, connects with young people, black voters, poor communities. He's got Kennedy charisma, but also genuine empathy. People believe in him.
And he's winning. Wins the California primary, the 4th of June, 1968. The path to the nomination is opening. Maybe Bobby can win. Maybe Camelot can return.
June 5, after midnight, Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles. Bobby gives his victory speech, thanks his supporters, leaves through the kitchen, taking a shortcut to a press conference.
12:15 a.m., June 5. Sirhan, Palestinian immigrant, 24 years old, steps forward with a .22 caliber revolver, fires, 8 shots.
Bobby's hit 3 times. 1 bullet enters behind his right ear, severs major blood vessels. He collapses. People scream. Chaos.
Bobby's rushed to Good Samaritan Hospital, brain surgery, but the damage is too severe. He dies 26 hours later. June 6, 1:44 a.m., 42 years old.
And America breaks again. Because this isn't random anymore. This is a pattern. JFK murdered. Martin Luther King Jr. murdered 3 months earlier, April 4. Now Bobby. 3 leaders, 5 years.
It feels like America is cursed. Like anyone who inspires hope gets killed. Like the country is eating itself alive.
And the 60s collapse. After Bobby's death, the hope dies. The assassinations, Vietnam, riots, protests. The whole decade curdles into violence and despair.
Nixon wins the presidency in November 68. Law and order, silent majority, the reaction to the chaos. And the 60s dream is over.
For people who lived through this, it's generational trauma. JFK, MLK, RFK, all within 5 years. All murdered, all hopes destroyed.
And that's what our parents passed to us. This sense that good leaders get killed, that hope is dangerous, that change is punished.
My dad talks about 68 like it was the end of everything. He said after Bobby died, they just gave up. Stopped believing in politics. Stopped believing anything could get better.
And that cynicism is still with us. That's what we inherited. That's what we're passing to our kids.
Which is depressing as hell.
It is. But it's also a reminder that we survived. The country didn't end in 68. Democracy continued. We got through the 70s, Watergate, everything.
But we never got back to that optimism. That belief that leaders could be heroic. After Bobby, it was over.
And that's JFK's shadow. Not just his death, but everything it set in motion. The distrust, the cynicism, the belief that hope gets punished. So let's bring this home. Why does JFK still matter 60 years later? Why are we spending 90 minutes on this?
Because he represents something we've lost or think we've lost. Optimism, idealism, leaders who inspire genuine hope. Not ironic hope, not cynical hope, real, earnest belief that the future can be better.
And for people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, that's intoxicating. Because we grew up in the shadow of JFK. Our parents told us about Camelot, about the moon landing, about Kennedy speeches that moved them.
And now we're living in a world where that feels impossible, where politicians are either villains or disappointments, where hope feels naive, where believing in anything makes you a sucker.
JFK's death didn't just kill a president, it killed a version of America. The version that believed in heroes, that believed progress was inevitable, that believed the future would be brighter than the past.
And we've been grieving that loss ever since. Not just our parents, us too. Because we inherited the wound.
Right, and now we're middle-aged, dealing with mortgages, tuition, aging parents, health problems, retirement, anxiety. Everything costs too much. Our kids don't understand us. Our parents need us. Our bodies hurt.
I sleep with a machine on my face. My son's unemployed with a theatre degree. My retirement fund's a joke. I go to therapy every 2 weeks to cope with anxiety.
And in the middle of all that chaos, we look back at JFK and think, at least then there was hope. At least then people believed in something.
Even though the 60s were brutal, Vietnam, assassinations, riots, protests, the whole decade was violent and traumatic.
But we don't remember that. We remember Camelot, we remember the speeches, we remember the mythology. Because mythology is more comforting than reality.
And maybe that's okay. Maybe we need myths. Maybe we need stories that remind us humans can be extraordinary, even if it's not the complete truth.
But here's what I think JFK's real legacy is. Not what he accomplished, not the policies, but what his death taught us. That hope is fragile, that progress isn't guaranteed, that everything can change in seconds.
But also that we endure. America didn't collapse after Dallas. Democracy survived. The moon landing happened. Civil rights passed. Life continued. Imperfectly, but it continued.
And that's the lesson for us now, because a lot of people our age feel like everything's falling apart. Polarization, distrust, economic anxiety, political chaos, climate crisis. It feels like we're teetering.
But we've been here before. After Dallas, after Bobby, after MLK, after Vietnam, after Watergate. The 70s were brutal. The 80s had their own crises. The 90s, the 2000s, all of it.
And we survived, not perfectly, not without scars, but we survived. Our parents survived and raised us. We're surviving and raising our kids.
Even though it's hard, even though we're exhausted, even though we're terrified about money and health and the future,
we keep going. Because that's what humans do. We endure, we adapt, we find meaning in chaos.
And maybe that's JFK's real gift. Not what he did, but what his memory gives us. Permission to hope, even after tragedy. Permission to believe things can improve even when evidence suggests otherwise.
Because the alternative is despair. And despair doesn't help anyone.
My therapist is very clear on that point.
She sounds smart.
She is. And expensive, but worth it.
So what do we tell our kids? How do we pass down something other than trauma and anxiety?
We tell them the truth. That the world is scary and uncertain. That bad things happen. That hope gets punished sometimes. But that we keep going anyway. That we keep trying. That we keep believing.
Even when our backs hurt and we need reading glasses and we can't eat Mexican food without regret.
Even then. Especially then. Because giving up helps no one.
And JFK would have wanted that. Not worship, not mythology, but resilience, The belief that America can survive its wounds and keep moving forward.
Imperfectly, messily, but forward.
That's the hope. That's the lesson. All right. Final thoughts after 90 minutes. John Fitzgerald Kennedy, May 29th, 1917 to November 22nd, 1963. President for 1,036 days. Myth forever.
We covered his childhood, his sickness, PT 109, his rise to politics. We covered Camelot and Jackie, the Cold War terror that shaped everything, his presidency, the wins and disasters, Bay of Pigs, Cuban Missile Crisis, civil rights.
We covered Dallas. The day everything changed. 3 shots in 6 seconds. Lee Harvey Oswald. Jack Ruby. The conspiracies. The Warren Commission. The permanent distrust.
We covered Bobby Kennedy's assassination 5 years later, the final death of 60s optimism, the collapse into cynicism, the America we inherited.
And we covered why it still matters. Why 60 years later, we can't let go. Why JFK represents something we desperately want back. Hope, optimism, leaders who inspire.
Because we're tired, we're middle-aged, everything hurts, everything costs too much, our kids are anxious, our parents are aging, our retirement's uncertain, and the world feels like it's falling apart.
And in the middle of all that, JFK's memory says, it doesn't have to be this way. Things can be better, leaders can be heroic, the future can be bright.
Even though it's mythology, even though the reality was messier, even though JFK had affairs and health problems and policy failures.
The symbol still matters because symbols give us something to reach for, something to believe in, and we desperately need that.
You're doing the hopeful thing again.
I know. It's uncomfortable for me. I'm usually cynical, but I'm 46. My body hurts constantly. I'm terrified about money every single day. Caroline's tuition is destroying me. Dylan's going to need college soon. My parents are aging and I don't call enough, and I need something to believe in.
I understand. I'm 52. I sleep with a machine on my face like a science fiction character. My son Ronald has a theatre degree and lives in my house doing auditions that go nowhere. My retirement fund is basically non-existent. I go to therapy twice a month to cope with catastrophizing everything. I need hope too.
So let's end with this. JFK's legacy isn't his policies. It's not even his assassination. It's what came after. The moon landing, civil rights, the slow, frustrating, imperfect march towards something better.
And our legacy won't be perfection either. It'll be surviving middle age with some dignity intact, raising kids who are smarter and more anxious than we were, taking care of parents who raised us, trying to leave the world slightly better than we found it.
Even if our backs hurt.
Even if we need reading glasses to see restaurant menus.
Even if our knees creak when we stand up.
Even if we can't eat spicy food without immediate digestive regret.
Even if we're exhausted and worried and uncertain about the future.
We keep going. Because that's what humans do. We endure. We adapt. We find meaning.
And maybe that's enough.
Maybe it is.
All right, folks. Thanks for spending 90 minutes with us. This is the Mike and Mark History Experience. I'm Mike.
I'm Mark. And remember, history isn't just what happened. It's what we make of it.
And what we make of it is a choice. We can choose despair or we can choose to keep going with hope.
We're choosing hope.
With therapy.
And antacids.
And overpriced coffee that we can't afford.
And streaming subscriptions we can't figure out how to cancel.
And Gen Z kids who think we're obsolete but still need us to pay for things.
And aging parents who deserve better than our guilt-driven phone calls.
But we're still here. Still standing. Still trying.
Still believing that things can get better.
Even if it takes a while.
Even if we don't live to see it.
We plant trees we'll never sit under.
That's beautiful, Mike.
I stole it from someone. I don't remember who.
Doesn't matter. It's true.
Until next time.
Cheers.
Cheers.